this is Kay Granskog, and Pastor Joanna has asked me to talk to you about my experience with physical changes and things. So first of all, I want you to look at this muscle. It's not that impressive, is it? I came before you to tell you that I'm not the runner of the family. I've never even done a 5K. We bought bicycles when I turned 60, and they sat in the garage all summer. So why would I even agree to talk to you about physical kind of changes? I agreed because I'm one of you. I intellectually know that the exercising is a good idea, but somehow making time for it never rose to the top of the list. It was much more godly to get my Bible reading done, to serve at church, to prepare the Sunday school lessons I was going to teach, and in the day to teach my children about God. And in addition to that, it was much more responsible to make sure that the laundry was done, that the house was clean, that children made it to practices on time, and that I appeared at work when I was expected. It was more loving to read a bedtime story to my children, to have a good conversation with Andy, and try to have a relationship with the people that God put around me, either at church or at work or anywhere I was. To put my own health in front of godliness and responsibility and love for others seemed impossible. And at times I even convinced myself that it might be wrong. After all, God had given me pretty good health already. I didn't need to make any changes physically. And that was the story I told myself. That story kept me from exercising, even though my health wasn't as great as I thought it was. It was a little bit of a myth. So first I'm going to tell you a story. This story happened on January 4th, 2018. I had had a pain in my leg in late December of the year before that was enough that it made me go to my doctor to find out what it was. Like taking your car to fix the rattle, it won't rattle when you get there. That's exactly what happened. But my doctor looked me over, and she guessed that the pain came from a varicose vein that was in my leg. So she authorized an appointment with a local vein doctor, and it was almost as an afterthought that she prescribed an ultrasound to look for a DVT, which is a deep vein thrombosis. The ultrasound happened early in the morning, before 8 o'clock, so the office was very quiet. Only the sonographer and I seemed to be around at all. When she finished her work, I sat up and she told me I couldn't leave. I had a deep blood clot and it was very serious, and if she couldn't reach my doctor, I had to go to the ER. I remember feeling like I was a ticking time bomb from the shock of discovering that my leg had extensive clotting, any of which could break away and have traveled to my heart or brain. It was really scary that I had extensive older clotting in my left leg, and I was referred to as a specialist at the University of Michigan Hospital. All of this went on, and I still had not exhibited any other symptoms than that one time in late December. I've always felt that it was a small miracle from God that I was made aware of this clotting at all. The result of all this was a surgery to insert 4 stents in my leg to improve blood flow and open up the iliac vein. My surgeon told me I had to get more exercise if I wanted that vein to stay open. I did not respond well to this. When we got in the car, I told Andy, I am not getting a treadmill. Where would we even put it? Our house isn't big enough unless we wanted to put it in the basement, and you know I wouldn't use it if I was down there. So Andy very reasonably asked and suggested that I could get a membership at a gym. I cast my most scathing eye at him and haughtily asked him if he thought I had time to drive somewhere, wait for equipment, and then spend a half an hour on a treadmill. Who did he think he was talking to? I had so much to do. I was really upset. And didn't God know how much time it took me to take care of all the activities each week, to be godly, responsible, and loving? Why would he do this to me? It was just new work to pile onto my already full life. At this point, everything seemed black and white for choices, and I didn't see any of them working out. So what did I learn about myself during that time? Well, first, When I have physical issues, I try to solve them alone. Why do I do that? That doesn't even make sense. Psalm 55:22 says, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken." And 1 Peter 5:7 reads, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Clearly, my rigid black and white thinking wasn't serving me well at all. Secondly, who was it that told me that taking time to maintain my own health was not godly, responsible, and loving? And that doesn't even make sense when I think of it today. In 1 Corinthians 6:19, it tells us, "Don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." I had to ask myself what I thought might happen if I said no to some act of service. Give someone else a chance to have a loving act, or teach someone how to share the responsibilities that I had. Did I really have so little margin in my life that adjustments couldn't be made? I was to be a temple of the Holy Spirit, not a temple to Kay Granskog. I reached the end of myself at some point right in there, and I finally had to admit I couldn't go it alone. I did not have all the answers, and that it wasn't even my job to solve all my health issues alone. I was finally ready to take my self-proclaimed responsibilities to God and ask what I should do rather than telling him what I needed to get done, which is the way I love to run my life, even if it's not the way I should run my life. God did not need to perform an immediate miracle to clear my veins and keep them clear through divine intervention, as I had regularly requested. And please note, during all of those prayers for instantaneous healing, I was completely prepared to give him all the glory for the miracle, because I'm nothing if not fair. Instead of my idea of a miracle, when I was able to ask God what I should do with an open mind, I could consider Andy's suggestion that we investigate getting a Fitbit to help me set some daily goals to improve my physical health. I believe that God is working through some simple thing like a watch, I've got it on my wrist now, that helps me keep track of some basic things. I started out trying to take 10,000 steps per day, 5 days a week. And I was hopeful that I would have some of those steps be fast enough that they would register in what the watch calls the cardio zone, and so I could track it. Andy was a big help as I began, because I never had enough steps at the end of my workday in those early days. After already going for a run himself, he would drive me to the mall so I could walk until I reached the deficit I had. Walking around the perimeter of the Meridian Mall took me 20 minutes, and I couldn't get all the way around without slowing down for part of it. My attitude was unfortunately sometimes less than stellar as well. Sometimes I would tell Andy I wasn't going to walk all the way around if I got to 10,000 steps first. Sometimes it was the reverse, and I would be so short on steps that I should have gone around twice, and I wouldn't hear of it, or I would only do it after Andy cajoled me into it. I fought it on one hand, but my natural tendency to follow rules began to win out as I gradually got stronger and with better endurance. I started doing things like walking a longer path to get into my office in the morning, just to load some steps onto the start of the day before I was tired. If I had time, I'd stop at the mall immediately after work to get at those steps in. My doctor wanted me to get up and move more during the day, so I started tracking how many hours between 9 and 6 that I had gotten up and taken 250 steps during that hour. When I could, those steps added to the count of my 10,000 that I wanted at the end of the day. As I got stronger, I noticed I could walk fast enough to get 30 minutes worth of steps that were all in the cardio zone. And if I got out of bed in time, I could take a 15-minute walk into work at cardio speed. I set a marker for that so I'd know how many times per week that I achieved it. Andy still sometimes will endure me walking around the house to get enough steps in while he reads in the chair or does something else, because I just can't get it all done sometimes, and he puts up with this very much, and I appreciate it. Until my recent surgery, I had increased my measure to aim for 5 miles of steps, 30 minutes of cardio daily, one section of that cardio obtained by at least 15 minutes of sustained cardio, an hour of what Fitbit calls active minutes, and in an ideal world, 250 steps per hour between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. I try to do it daily. I hope you can see that my improvements came slowly and incrementally. I have never once added a measure unless I felt I could do it. These goals stretched me. I have found them very satisfying to meet them and even to grow them. My reward comes from seeing my own progress and knowing I'm moving toward better health and making my body more worthy of the Holy Spirit in me. I was not immediately transported to perfect veins or health. The Fitbit is not a magic device. In my case, it helped me make time and adjust my life in little ways to make room for healing habits. It worked much of the same as the discipline I've had to do in other areas of my life, such as remembering to read my Bible. It helped me prioritize and make room. Some of the outcomes have been that I lost 9 pounds that I was happy to see go. I also had the stamina for a 30th anniversary walking trip where I walked between 9 and 12 miles a day this past summer, and we had a wonderful time. Before taking the small and progressively more expansive steps to get into shape, I couldn't have done it, and we would have never been able to have this experience. And as I showed you at the beginning, I'm still not buff. I am only an example of what happens when you face what needs to change. Ask God how to go about starting, share your need with those around you, and begin. Thank you for letting me share my story.